Good afternoon and good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our latest Jefferson Frank webinar focusing on hiring trends for AWS Partners. We hope you'll find it both informative and beneficial, considering so many of us are thinking about getting ahead of 2021 this time of year. My name is Clifford Maya, VP overseeing our tech partner team here at Jefferson Frank, and I'd like to thank you for your time today. I'd also like to introduce my colleague Shane Masterson, VP of our consulting partner team at Jefferson Frank, as well as Erica Ashman, account executive with the Revolent Group. Shane and I will be talking not only from our data sets from the findings, but our experience as an AWS advanced technology partner ourselves. We've invited Erica to contribute based on Revolent's position in and contribution to the AWS ecosystem. Before we start, I'd like to go through the agenda for today's webinar. I'll start by giving you a brief introduction to Jefferson Frank, then I'll jump straight into the Jefferson Frank Salary Survey for 2021, where you'll learn interesting market trends ranging from what products are and will be in demand for all the decision makers and salespeople on the call, as well as retention and attraction, data, and advice. We'll finish off with the Q&A session, where we'll be able to answer any questions you might have. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to add them to the chat box and we'll go through them together at the end of this webinar. Let's start with a brief introduction of who we are. Jefferson Frank is the largest AWS specialist staffing business globally. We launched in 2018 to address the incredible demand for AWS professionals as the platform continues to grow at an astonishing rate. With over 300 consultants spread across 18 offices around the world, half of those in the United States, we offer a complete network from coast to coast. We have US hubs in New York, Dallas, Denver, Philadelphia, Tampa, Scottsdale, Irvine, Charlotte, and have placed over 1,600 globally to date with organizations of vastly differing sizes from SMEs to enterprise customers. We also have the world's largest database of AWS professionals, meaning we have access to more talent than anyone else. We work with organizations worldwide to find and deliver the best AWS certified professionals on the planet, with teams specializing in DevOps, Big Data and BI, IaaS, PaaS, and security. We're extremely proud to say we've recently achieved AWS Advanced Technology Partner status and are the only recruitment firm awarded that status in the world. In other words, we're perfectly positioned to advise on the AWS jobs market.
And as with Revolent Group, we're a world-leading cloud talent creator. We're headquartered in the UK with over 50% of our leadership consisting of women. And we're also involved with a number of organizations, including Diversity, Inclusion, and Equality, Women in IT, and the Salesforce Talent Alliance. Our Rebels, as we call them, come from all parts of the world, representing over 20 nationalities and 63% identifying themselves as BAME. And as the Jefferson Frank Salary Guide reflects, with 61% of people surveyed already being certified, we're taking their personal time and money to continue earning additional AWS certs. That's where Revolent Group has seen the market need to provide the opportunity for those IT professionals looking to upskill and cross-train themselves without having to worry about where they will find the extra time and or money to make that happen for themselves. And unlike Jefferson Frank, we're not a staffing firm. We are instead a certified learning and development company that upskills and cross-trains IT professionals in order to provide an alternative support model to our clients.
The Jefferson Frank Salary Survey is our annual industry-leading report based on over 62,000 data points, including self-reported information from AWS professionals and employers worldwide. This year, our survey includes data on how the coronavirus pandemic in 2020 has affected the industry and what you can do to overcome those challenges. It's a unique snapshot of the AWS ecosystem and the professionals that work within it, allowing us to better understand their thoughts, needs, the issues that affect them, the products they use, trends on the platform, relevant certifications, and what motivates and demotivates them. We've also collected anonymized salary information combined with our own data from people we've placed to get a more accurate picture of what people working with AWS worldwide are currently earning. This is not only a valuable information for job seekers, but for employers like yourselves to get a comprehensive view of what more can be done to attract and retain the best talent in the market today. I'm pretty sure most of you are curious to know what we discovered through this year's salary survey, so let's move on to some of the key findings. As I mentioned earlier, we will follow up with a Q&A session, so feel free to submit any questions that might come up over the next slides, and we'll answer them at the end of this presentation. When people talk about market challenges in the tech space, most of it is directly related to the workforce's ability and availability. Taking it a step further, we wonder, is it a cloud skills gap or a cloud skills crisis? Well, it probably doesn't come as a surprise, and it's not necessarily the best news, but it's a bit of both. When we look at what is producing the skills gap and ultimately crisis, it's projected that 60% of companies will be on the cloud by the end of 2021 and growing to 80% by 2022. While that's great news, especially for all of you on the call, unfortunately, 1 in 3 roles will remain unfilled by that point of time. Take, for instance, the fact that present day 38% of organizations can't hire staff with cloud skills, which is further supported by the fact that even during the coronavirus, when companies were not hiring, there were still 13,000 cloud jobs being advertised. Considering the market has been doubling in user adoption over the past few years, we're experiencing today a skills shortage and soon to be massive skills crisis. We'll dig deeper into this throughout today's webinar and how we can overcome this. However, the biggest takeaway is that there simply is not enough of the rare in-demand professionals on the market, which means that either employers need to accept that fact and train up what is available, or get into a talent war. Now, taking into account the implications that hiring the wrong person has on partners and their ability to deliver, most opt for the experienced hire, which is clearly creating a war for talent in the partner network. As AWS favors and promotes their partners first, you're all competing even more so for them. Now, in closing, you need to have a strategy for 2021 that looks for sustainability rather than getting into a reactive and impulsive bidding war. To add to that, if employers want to add more D&I to their workforce, it makes the gap significantly larger.
And addressing market challenges is our mission with Revolent Group. The numbers speak for themselves. 63% of companies expect the skills gap to widen, and 59% expect the talent shortage to continue. Another concern we work to address at Revolent Group is the growing lack of women in IT. Only 26% of the IT workforce is women, and minorities being only 4% of that, with even less fractions holding senior level leadership roles. With the added stress of living in a COVID world now, employers are having to reevaluate day-to-day operations just to keep their doors open, and digital transformations are being sped up years to accommodate a rapidly changing new normal. Our resolve with Revolent Group is to focus on what helps on hiring and redeploying the missing talent pipeline by cross-training and upskilling individuals with funnels of certified talent to companies that can't be found anywhere else on the market.
So let's start a deep dive with the good news. So overall, the health of the AWS ecosystem is very strong, and 73% of AWS partner employees tell us they expect to see an increase in their workload in the coming year, despite the disruption of 2020. Certifications, their importance, and their impact on salary is always an extremely interesting aspect of our report as well. 61% of respondents have told us they hold at least one AWS certification, with 37% of those certified experiencing a salary increase after getting certified. The fact that hiring managers are investing so heavily in the development of their teams and their skill set on the platform, and then rewarding them for that, shows the importance that these firms are placing on their AWS implementation and projects. As a result, 62% of AWS professionals are satisfied with their current role, and we'll go into ways you can improve this later in the presentation. There are a lot of quick wins that will easily reduce churn, and the great news is that not all require financial investment. What can we take away from these insights? They're eager to learn, to grow, and on getting their hands dirty. It's really important that you allow them to do that. Anyone with AWS experience is incredibly in demand in the ecosystem, and in the next slide, we'll tell you how to keep them. How happy are AWS professionals with their jobs? Well, in terms of overall satisfaction, we've seen that 62% of our respondents seem to be satisfied with their role, while 15% told us they were dissatisfied. I think it's interesting that the percentage of respondents who told us they were indifferent about their jobs is almost a quarter. I say interesting because combined with the factors that you can see scoring poorly in the satisfaction ratings, these are all things that could easily reduce churn. For instance, your employees might feel indifferent because they can't see any room for career progression, or maybe because they feel like they've been stuck in the same rut of tasks for quite some time. Now, supporting training and development or outlining their career progression with your business might be just one relatively easy way of improving this. And this is valid for all employees. Employers can easily work on these points, improving loyalty and retention rates almost immediately. This is an excellent opportunity to motivate your employees, help them further develop their skills, increase their knowledge, and in turn, see their career progress with your company. Some other relatively easy actionable points we can spot on the list are company culture, benefits, and office environment. Most of these have been this year's events. Therefore, employers need to rethink which benefits they're offering employees during this pandemic and even after it. For some of the benefits previously desired by employees, such as gym memberships, free parking, and so on, these might not be what they want or need at the moment. And the same thing actually holds true for the office environment. Pre-pandemic, this was relatively easy to keep an eye on. However, now that many employees are working from home, it's difficult to understand what the concept of office means to them. They might be more comfortable working from home, but keeping a healthy virtual environment will make it easier for them to keep up their levels of productivity, teamwork, socialization, and all the benefits that are usually associated with physically being in an office environment. This is all tightly related to one other point, company culture, which is vital in today's work environment. Now, we too know it's much more challenging to maintain company culture throughout the entire organization when most of us are working remotely. Things that you can do to improve this instantly, such as improving your communication and communication. Your employees aren't isolated through virtual social interaction and events. Make sure to include one-on-ones and team meetings. And most importantly, keep in mind that if they can visualize their future with you, they're less likely to opportunities elsewhere. We'd like to share with you some exclusive information just for our webinar attendees, as I do think it ties perfectly into job satisfaction. Now I'm talking about whether your employees feel valued or not at work, and most importantly, why. The good news is that most employees do feel valued at work. They feel like their work is appreciated, their opinions are heard and acted upon, and generally feel respected by their peers and superiors. As employers, it's essential to understand why your employees do not feel valued at work, as this is a big factor in their job satisfaction. As we've mentioned earlier, most AWS professionals are hardworking individuals ready to jump into the next challenge. Now, whether that's hands-on experience or a new certification. The reasons why they might not feel valued are closely tied to this, and when it comes to the respondents who don't feel appreciated, we've seen that it's typically because their contributions are overlooked. Their opinions are not heard, they feel like they cannot contribute, their skills aren't being utilized, and they get no recognition. Now, it's essential to understand whether your employees feel valued or not. What changes is the way that you operate can definitely help change your opinion. Sometimes employers make the mistake of hiring employees for their skills and experience and forgetting to actually put that to fair use in the long run. Therefore, making sure your employees feel appreciated is mostly about maintaining that initial spark throughout your entire collaboration. If they feel valued, they're less likely to look for another employer who can do that instead of you. And while being valued always ties in with compensation, being able to use the skills someone is employed for also plays a big part in that.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shane Masterson, and I'm Vice President of our North American team dedicated to AWS Consulting Partners. Let's move on to the elephant in the room, salary satisfaction. Whether we like it or not, many employees are motivated by money. Their salary is not just what they take home at the end of the month, it's also a representation of the value the company puts on them. Compensation plays an important role in an employee's overall job satisfaction. If they feel like they're well compensated for their work, they're far more likely to be motivated to give their best at it in general and will be more productive as a result. When it comes to AWS professionals, 51% of permanently employed respondents are satisfied and feel they are well compensated for their work. In comparison, however, 49% think they're either undervalued or unsure of how much they should be paid. If employees feel like they're not financially valued enough, they might start looking or are already looking at similar positions in companies offering a better salary package. Our recommendation is to make sure the salary you're offering to your employees meets their expectations and is vertically competitive. If you're not sure how much you should be paying your AWS professionals, make sure you look at the salary tables in our salary survey. We've included a comprehensive view of the current average salary for different positions and different years of experience within the AWS ecosystem, covering different locations around the world. Based on our further research, we have found that a key component as to why candidates feel undervalued is due to market growth and the pressure we are witnessing to hire. Due to the huge volume of new roles posted and the regular outreach from different customers, candidates often find themselves with realistic expectations on their value based on that experience. The best way to overcome this and retain your staff is to invest in your employees on their career journey to increase job satisfaction, which we will talk through in more detail now. We touched on this a little earlier, but let's take a deeper dive into certifications. Certs are essential to ensure both current and future employees have the right knowledge to compete in an evolving industry. Now, this is not only beneficial for the employees, it has long-term benefits for companies who invest their time and money in upskilling through certifications. As we've seen earlier, training and development opportunities rank lowest when it comes to job satisfaction. So it's pretty much your number one area to be looking at in terms of making the biggest difference. One of the most common reasons employees give for lack of training and development opportunities is that they're unsure where to start. In our salary survey, we've asked AWS professionals what training and development they're lacking and what they'd like more of. As you can see, our respondents told us they'd like more of a whole range of training, some more specific, such as AWS technical training, DevOps training, but also strategy and leadership. They also want to have time during work hours that are dedicated to learning and development opportunities. So it comes as no surprise that 61% of our respondents told us they hold at least one AWS cert, with a further 13% not holding it, but working towards one. Certifications have become another topical subject this year, as 2020 has allowed many worldwide to work on their qualifications. Between furlough and lockdown, many professionals have used their time to advance their professional development and upskill by gaining more certs, and a third of respondents told us they have done so themselves. In today's market, the two most sought after certifications are the Solution Architect Professional and Security Special. Supporting your staff in these areas will increase retention considerably. Moving on to AWS professionals who do not hold a cert and are not working towards one. In some exclusive data we can share with you today, we've asked them why. When certifications are deemed to be so important, what barriers are holding them back from starting on that path? While 42% said they feel they do not need to be certified, we learned that 41% see the time commitment involved in studying as the primary obstacle. While some candidates don't see the value today, this is a huge opportunity for customers to build reputation in business. Incorporating certs in a promotion criteria and career progression can allow to upskill your staff and increase customer satisfaction. Offering someone the time to study is well within your remit. If you have someone under your roof who is actively wanting to learn and improve, why would you not help facilitate that by offering guaranteed learning and development time to help them study? Cost implications and lack of support from my employer come shortly after at 27% and 24% respectively. One easy way to make yourself more attractive and support your current employees' training and development is by contributing to certification costs and creating time to study alongside their work commitments. In light of all this, keeping up with the competition when it comes to certifications is truly important. Certifications not only benefit your employees, but they also improve your company's productivity and efficiency and long-term cost reduction as they help with employee retention. This means fewer hiring costs and less disruption to the business due to employee turnover, but you're also bringing new skill sets into your organization that can help truly exploit the potential of AWS. Let's talk about work perks. As Cliff touched on already, work benefits has been yet another change brought about by the pandemic. Certain perks such as remote working and flexible working hours are now being offered as standard by most organizations. Others such as casual dress policies have become entirely redundant. We need to bear in mind that many companies have had to make specific budget cuts due to the economic slowdown due to the pandemic, which can affect benefits. Together, these reasons could be one of the factors as to why post-coronavirus, the percentage of professionals receiving all the benefits mentioned seem to have decreased, except for home working, which has grown exponentially. Even if your budget has decreased, there are still alternatives that you can offer, whether incentivized or not. For us, we encourage all employees to down tools an hour early on a Wednesday and do something that helps their own well-being, whether that's going for a walk, catching up on an episode of TV, essentially whatever they want, because it's their time. Similarly, time off, even if it's only a couple of hours, is an excellent way to recognize someone's effort if they've gone above and beyond and won't involve additional investment from you. It's a very simple prize to give that is gratefully received. Whether you are able to spend, gift cards are a welcome benefit at present, as we're all indoors ordering food and shopping online a little more than usual. Companies need to understand what professionals are expecting from their employers, both during and after the dust settles. Depending on how your workplace looks in 2021 may require big changes to the perks and benefits you offer compared to now. This will be a major area that employees will be left behind in the coming 12 months if they don't actively pay attention to it. Keeping your staff happy is obviously one thing, but it's also important to look at the benefits that attract the very best AWS professionals. A salary bonus topped our list, while a 13th month pay incentive was also highly desirable. A variety of bonus structures exist today, whether that's discretionary or non-discretionary, awarded to individuals, teams, or company-wide, but all aim to motivate and reward staff for their hard work, increased productivity, and good performance. This shows that employees would like recognition for going above and beyond what is required today, which for us is a huge plus. Not all employee bonuses take the form of a cash reward, and other options, for example, as mentioned, gift cards, vouchers, technology items, and extra PTO can incentivize staff while involving a similar outlay. We all like to feel recognized and awarded for a job well done in whatever form that takes. And for many organizations, non-cash bonuses can be a cost-effective option that still show you truly recognize individual contributors. For some candidates, something as simple as knowing they can log off early if you hit their targets once a week can be enough to incentivize them to work harder. As I've mentioned, workplaces worldwide have fundamentally changed since the onset of COVID. As you can see, 2 of the top 10 perks, remote working and flexible hours, are now offered as standard. What was seen as a perk may now be mandatory for workforces learning to live with COVID-19 and will likely become more commonplace when we reach the new normal. I certainly don't think many of us will return to Monday, Friday in a 9-to-5 office environment. Finally, and again, when it comes to attracting talent into your organization this year, it's going to require a combination of creativity and flexibility when it comes to that benefits package. We've talked a lot about what attracts and retains the best talent, but ultimately we also need to understand why people are leaving. 35% of AWS professionals told us they expect to leave their employer in the coming year, with a further 17% being unsure whether they'll stay or go. So what can we learn from this? By understanding why employees choose to leave their employers, you can lower employee turnover in your organization. That saves you money in hiring costs, but also tends to result in a better culture where employees can thrive and are naturally more productive. Most of the results paint a clear picture of the AWS ecosystem full of eager professionals who want to improve and develop. They want to take their career to the next level. They want challenges, to be utilized more than they are in their current company or role, and to be exposed to the latest AWS products. Sure, there's also a financial aspect, which we touched upon, but as you can see, most reasons are actually non-financial. I know and appreciate there's no one-size-fits-all solution, and the approach you need to take to address the points in which your company is lacking might be different from those taken by another employer. We know that employers should ensure that they are rewarding and progressing high performers and providing a clear development route. But it is vital to make sure your employee can see it too. When they have a visible career route with you, their eyes are looking ahead rather than towards what can be offered elsewhere. So looking at the data, we want to cover off the three main reasons why partners are struggling to hire. We have never been in a time of more uncertainty, and naturally, everybody is trying to reduce costs where possible. Due to COVID, many organizations are not hiring the best talent, as they're only hiring when opportunities arise. In 2021, an effective growth strategy will enable you to ensure short and long-term success. And as always, setting the strategy at the beginning of the year will allow you for the most effective growth. On to our second point. In today's market, top candidates are receiving on average 3 to 5 offers when looking for a new position. Now, this is not including counter offers, which a large percentage of the channel receive. It is very important to factor in career progression along with benefits and salary in FY 2021 to overtake the competition and add the best talent. And finally, candidates are analyzing businesses throughout the interview process. It is crucial to create a journey for the candidate when interviewing and ensure they learn as much about your business, career growth opportunities, and company culture. Every step of the process is going to be compared to other opportunities. To maximize your success, successful companies build strong rapport, create an open culture experience, and sell to each candidate's key motivators. One of our key customers in the channel have done an incredible job of this year, and as a result, they've been able to hire over 10 high-level AWS professionals since June. This approach has allowed them to win countless new projects recently, and they expect to add an additional 10 permanent employees in the next quarter. Our findings show that following this process successfully will give you the competitive edge, even if your competitors are offering higher salaries. How can we attract talent to partners? Well, some very interesting information here. Throughout the presentation, it's been clear to see that career growth and upskilling is at the forefront of most candidates' motivations. And this is not only specific to partner-based employees, which offers a unique opportunity in the channel. With 56% of the end user market interested in working for a partner to expand their skills, there's a huge pool of talent which you can help grow in what is a very competitive market. From our experience, hiring skilled AWS professionals from this space has been very successful and actually offers a greater retention rate at times due to their appreciation of moving into this space. Finally, an effective D&I strategy is crucial for future success. Erica will share the key findings on this topic.
One fact that remains regardless of a company size is that there's not a one-size-fits-all solution when it comes to your employees. And with help from the Jefferson Frank findings, that's where Revolent Group has seen the opportunity to make a massive difference in how you find and retain great AWS professionals. Workforce demographics shift. Our realities keep changing from day to day, making workforce diversity and inclusive employee culture necessary. And that's not just the need to implement a policy. Diversity and inclusion should be put into practice in everything the organization does. This also means considering unconscious bias and recognizing barriers to change together with accountability for results. There are clear benefits for a company when it comes to its workforce adopting effective diversity and inclusive policies. This includes having a wider talent pool. An example of how we've accomplished this is by our partnership with American Express. Revolent Group is currently working with them on a long-term project to build an onshore team of developers. And this has helped them to diversify their departments and be fully integrated with their company culture. We're also working with partner companies to engage more women in IT back into the workforce. And this has resulted in our Rebels being hired into leadership roles and to then further build out the team of women supporting those members. The D&I policy should be woven into your business strategy and communicated openly to staff from board level down to be truly effective. 26% of the respondents are not sure that their organization even has such a policy in place. Of course, it's possible that these organizations have one, but haven't given it the visibility it needs for the message to reach the staff. But that's a worrying outcome still. Building a diverse workforce and an inclusive employee culture shouldn't come from policy alone. D&I within a company is not just an education for employees. It should also be a visible commitment seen at every level within the organization. Now, before Cliff and Shane wrap this webinar, based on what we see at Revolent and tying that back into the Jefferson Frank findings, I'd like to touch on a topic that's very much the subject this year: remote working. We ourselves at Revolent Group had to make drastic changes when COVID impacted workforce, the office workforce, I should say. Pre-COVID, we were 100% in office, and we had to almost overnight turn into a 100% working office. And pivoting to remote work has surprised many other businesses and pushed them to make the switch to an offsite setup in a matter of days or weeks. Before COVID-19, 23% of permanent professionals who took part in our survey worked from home on a full-time basis, while 70% worked from home at least one day a week. This increased during the pandemic, with 84% working remotely from home full-time and a whopping 97% working from home at least once a week. The pandemic has fundamentally changed the global approach to work and the workplace. With remote working part of the new normal, it's also evolving in steps to a worldwide scenario. It'll be interesting to see how businesses change their policies post-COVID and whether the surge of days spent working remotely across all tech job levels in the AWS ecosystem will still remain. We can only wait and see what happens. We might be able to anticipate and adapt any current or future decisions regarding remote working through the thoughts and concerns AWS professionals have about home working. Our respondents told us most of their problems revolve around their productivity, work-life balance, and collaboration with their coworkers. You might want to make sure your business offers the best possible incentives and conditions for your employees to work remotely effectively. From a recruitment point of view, offering remote work expands your hiring power. Previously, we were limited to how geographically close your employees need to be in order to commute into the office. If someone can work remotely, then you can cast your net out significantly further than before and find talent that you need, including nearshore and offshore workers. For instance, we've seen a big increase in the distance someone is willing to commute if they only have to do that journey a few days a week. It can also have a huge impact on diversity, as again, there can be any number of things that affect someone's ability to travel and spend 40 hours a week in an office environment. One of those is childcare. For parents, finding a role that can work around childcare and schools is very difficult and can be a real barrier to the workplace. Offering some flexible hours in a home-based role can allow you to appeal to even more applicants, automatically increasing your hiring power. It also means that time saved commuting doesn't have to be spent on childcare. So something that requires zero investment from your end can have a significant financial impact and benefit to an employee. So as the dust settles on this year and you look to reshape the way your own organization works, it's more important than ever to consider the role that remote work will play and how your team looks. It's safe to say that having a taste of remote work in 2020, it'll become even more desirable in 2021, whatever shape or form you use to adopt it.
Right, so that brings us very close to the end of this webinar, so thank you, Shane and Erica. However, before moving on to the Q&A, I'd like to go through these three main takeaways from this presentation. First off, what's your working strategy? Remote working and flexible hours have been hot topics in the recruitment world for years now, and this year's events have made them even more so. Being near the end of 2020 and looking back, the days we were all heading into our offices feels like light years ago. Now that initial phase is over, as we all have more experience working remotely, we can work on more medium to long-term solutions. But we've also seen what AWS professionals are concerned with when it comes to remote working. So now is the time to make sure you're offering a more structured solution to ensure their concerns are being addressed and that their work can be performed smoothly. We're expecting remote working to stay in some form or another, even once a pandemic is over. So it's worth investing in and ensuring you've got the best setup for your employees to work with. Know what your policy is now rather than figuring it out as you go. Candidates thinking about their next role aren't just interested in your current policy, they want to know how they'll be working in the long term. And remote work is such a desirable benefit, you need to know how you'll approach it going into 2021 and beyond. Secondly, we've seen the importance training and development has on your teams. Investing in your team's growth will pay off, whether that investment is time or money. We've also seen that AWS professionals are hungry for knowledge, eager to get their hands dirty, and are interested in their jobs. They want to be exposed to the latest products, learn more, and keep track of their development and the direction their career is headed. This is a perfect trait to have in an employee, but you've got to be aware of the role you play in keeping them stimulated and in providing an environment where that can continue and they can flourish within your company rather than someone else's. Finally, with all the direction cloud technology has been progressing towards, which has clearly been expedited by coronavirus demands, the top 3 technologies are within containerization and security, as seen by the top 2 and 3 in-demand certifications, and data due to the volume of information businesses now must rely on. So what are your customers looking for? Well, by this point, looking at where the market wants to upskill itself, it should come as no surprise it's closely aligned to DevOps, data, and security. Again, evidence per the top in-demand certifications that Shane referenced earlier. Now, while this was likely to be the case pre-coronavirus, the amount of remote work and virtual environments has grown exponentially and has spurred these 3 to the forefront. The great news is now you know where to upskill and hire your staff, as it will help you get ahead of your competition and should also act as an attraction and retention tool.
Based on all the information we've heard today, we have found 3 key areas which we believe will hugely drive success in FY 2021. And the first one of that is around projects and services. So while we have seen the key AWS services used today, our survey has gone a step further and identified the key AWS trends new customers will be looking to use in H1 of next year. 62% of this demographic plan to utilize data, analytics, and machine learning. This presents a brilliant opportunity for partners to continue to expand their offerings or branch into a different area of AWS to maximize customer growth. Interestingly, 5 of our top advanced partners in 2020 are looking to build a team specialized in this space in Q1 of 2021 to meet that future demand. In relation to training, we've talked about it multiple times, but based upon our findings, upskilling our employees in this space will allow for organic growth of your team and will increase staff retention. Empowering employees to gain certifications will allow you to align with their key motivations. With such a large percentage of the market considering a new role in the next 12 months, this could be a key factor in retaining these employees. And finally, our third recommendation is all about hiring the top talent. As the projects shift to a greater focus on data and machine learning, increased competition for talent will soon follow in both the partner and end user channel. This means it is crucial to hire quickly before salary inflation grows further and the candidate pool decreases. December and January are statistically proven to provide better candidates, less competition, and save you money. That's all from my end for today. Before we go, I'm happy to take any questions, whether it's specifically about the survey, hiring AWS professionals in general, trends around the coronavirus, or a question relating to Jefferson Frank as an organization. Just before we move on to that, I want to let you know that the full survey is available completely free of charge from our website, www.jeffersonfrank.com. There is so much detail within the survey that it would be impossible to cover it in such a short presentation. So I'd urge you to seek it out, download it, and use the information for your hiring decisions and how you manage your existing teams to improve retention. I'm more than happy to answer any questions you got, so I will pass over to the Q&A. Okay, excellent. So the first question that we have received so far today is from Josh from Minnesota. The first question that came in is, you've mentioned that we need to get creative with the benefits and perks we offer to our employees. What benefits do you think employers need to provide now? So Josh, 2020 has changed the world in many ways, and hiring is no exception. Okay, so if you're an employer or if you're managing a team at the moment, you might want to reevaluate your employee benefits. And the key thing that we have found is around healthcare. Obviously, this has now become incredibly important due to the current climate. This has been a key factor as to why top candidates have rejected offers, regardless of how great the career opportunity has been. Providing family plans and offering coverage at 100% or as close as possible will all but guarantee you're in the driving seat against the competition. The second question that we have is from Kunal from Fort Lauderdale. Kunal asked, his business is considering implementing AWS, but they feel like hiring could be a nightmare. Realistically, what is Kunal going to need to implement AWS for the business? Well, Kunal, I'd say it's difficult to answer without knowing the exact size or complexity of what you need. Again, the details are in this presentation, and I'd be more than happy to connect with you and advise you on an individual basis based on what you need. But one thing that is worth considering is a lot of AWS professionals do come from a generalist tech background, so your existing team can be cross-trained into the technology. Hard skills can be taught as long as you have a culture where your staff are eager to learn and are willing to adapt to that change. It's another part of why I've stressed the importance of training, development, and certifications throughout this presentation. If that's the case, and you have a tech team that may be lacking in experience but with the right mindset, I would highly recommend looking at the contracting market. This will allow you to bring in and nurture that skill set while making sure that the correct process and documentation has been correctly followed. I'd also suggest in that instance, a couple of contractors who can help with that will then allow you to not only upskill, but reduce costs in the future. That opportunity will obviously allow you for the greatest success in the future.
Right, and we've got a few more coming in right now, so I appreciate that. Want to tackle one from Beth, who asks, has COVID changed the hiring cycle? So first and foremost, thank you for your question, Beth. It's a great question. I'm sure one on everyone's mind. So short answer, absolutely. Digging into it though, kind of looking back over the past year, we found that the recruitment process is much, much faster. And the average time it takes has actually gone from an average of 6 weeks down to 4. So about 33% reduction in timing. And to clarify, that is from a client first registering a job with Jefferson Frank to us successfully placing a candidate with them. A large part of the reason where the timing's been reduced is it's the interview process now is averaging 2 rounds with 4 out of 5 involving no actual in-person meetings. So instead, most people have opted to use things such as Zoom, Microsoft Teams, AWS Chime, Skype, a lot of different video platforms. And while those numbers are a staggering increase, companies do have the confidence in Jefferson Frank and our services. As well, I think that the market understands the need to get the access to the talent much quicker as there truly is a talent war going on. So Beth, has COVID changed the hiring cycle? Yes, absolutely. Thanks in large part to remote working. The turnaround is much quicker and the process is much easier. With remote teams, you can hire from a much, much wider pool of talent. And more than 9 out of 10 clients we've placed with have actually told us the opportunity will be there next year and into for all of next year for people to work remotely 100%. So looking through, a good follow-up question, I think, to Beth's is from Bruno in Colorado. So what do you expect the new normal to look like when it comes to hiring for AWS? So another great question. So Bruno, I think if you use the key findings from the salary survey, which Shane and Erica talked about, what we'll all probably see is the same thing other businesses and industries will, which is much, much more remote working. But I also want to take a second, actually, and something I've kind of reflected on, I think a lot of people have, is the knock-on effects that remote working will have. So an example of what I mean, and that I personally know, and I think it's safe to assume a lot of people on this call are probably familiar with, parents will have a wider choice of childcare options. So is it one parent watches children one day and then they rotate? Do they split hours of the day? Are there family members that can help out? There's a lot of different options. So this alone could present more options of employment for households that were previously limited due to that supervision of children and other dependents. So again, Bruno, in this new normal, the digital skills gap is widening, and the industry desperately needs people. So put it bluntly, the real picture and the way to overcome it is a remote workforce. Thank you for your question.
Awesome, thank you, Cliff. So we got a brilliant question in from Anuj, who is working within AWS at the moment and planning to really make the transition across. And I think a lot of the people on this call might be interested in yourself after we have this chat. But Anuj asks, how easy or difficult is it to switch into a career with AWS if you're only getting certified? The honest answer is it's definitely tough, but the reality is, with the way the market is today, your previous experience across wider technology would still be very, very relevant. Most organizations are at the point where they're looking to upskill people, and it would really be down to, I suppose, your previous experience, but also your attitude towards growth. So the fact that you're going and doing this self-learning and looking to make that transition will put you in a very positive position. And we got another great question from Kyle, which was in relation to employee work location. Are there preferences in relation to remote work, co-working locations, private offer, lease, that maybe more or less disruptive? Funnily, the reason I'm chuckling at that is because in the last couple of moments, my outside my window, there appears to be a car accident, and I can hear horns beeping everywhere. So apologies to everybody if that's the case. But ultimately, as of right now, Kyle, what we're seeing is everybody is still very, very focused on trying to reach the other side of the pandemic, and staying as home as much as possible. I think that does present an excellent opportunity for businesses, though, to look at co-working locations and create a rotation system if you are looking for people in a specific area. But what we have found, if people are required to go to office today, the private office lease has really been the main priority and preference of candidates, because they feel secure in knowing that they're going to the same place and the practices and policies will be upheld. I hope that answers that for you.
And actually, to piggyback that, so we have another question. Apologies, I have your abbreviated first name. Will organizations be required to create a remote work policy for employees? A little bit difficult to answer that. I do think that every organization will determine what they need to do. However, I think it is very safe to assume most will probably choose to do so. Ernestine, thank you very much. I do think that they will choose to do so. Again, the findings, 9 out of 10 of the companies, as I previously mentioned, have said we're going to be working remote, and most are honestly leaning towards 100%. There's a lot of benefits that they see from it. Surely, some people mentioned, children, things outside, like Shane referenced, things we're all dealing with. But all in all, we can't answer that. That's the organization's decision. But I do think, because it's the new normal, it's something that they will choose to do. And we have a question, Sushma. Google is investing high in their cloud offering and analytics. How do you think it might affect the AWS market? It's a fantastic question. So Sushma, typically what we've seen is adoption of technology really only works out well if people are familiar with it. What I mean by that is, if a company hires, let's say a company goes all in on the cloud to AWS, but they don't have the right resources in-house to use it, typically a company doesn't see that as a shortcoming of their workforce. They assume the technology doesn't work. So I think with Google developing and investing so much, it is going to be very new. AWS is something that's established. I think the openness, the flexibility of the cloud in general, but particularly AWS, I think we're going to see a lot of crossover. I think it will only help benefit it. And like we said, there's a skills crisis and a skills gap. So it's going to have to be filled one way. And that probably means advantages for everyone, including those in the AWS market, even if Google is increasing, their share of the pie.
Thank you, Cliff. It looks like we've probably got about 3 or 4 more to go through. So if anybody does have anything else they would like to ask, please do pop it into the chat box. Really interesting question here, and it was around the partner ecosystem. And is there something specific about this that attracts candidates to it? And I would absolutely 100% say yes. Okay, so what we've seen throughout the presentation is that candidates are extremely motivated by professional development. Which is why certifications have become so popular within the larger ecosystem. So when we look at the nature of the technology and work that's been carried out, whether you're a consulting or technology partner, it allows those candidates to really dig in to becoming technical experts and work in a very fast-paced environment. So I think that's the key plus that we have within the partner channel. We want to make sure that people who are there are not just clocking in and out. And the positive fact of that is we see not only in the channel, but also 56% of the end user market being very, very keen to move into that. So I think not only is it specific, but it's a real opportunity for everybody to capitalize on in 2021.
And just looking, there's about 3 more. So I'll take the one from John here. John from California wants to know, what actionable steps can an employer take to improve diversity in their tech teams? So fantastic question, John. Thank you. Definitely an applicable one, especially looking at the findings from today. So while recruitment is obviously an important aspect to focus on, I think a big one, and this is something we try to highlight why we put these stats out to the market, is retention. It's hugely underrated, and it's something to focus on. It makes no sense to try and open up the hiring process when you don't have an inclusive place to work. Quintessential example of that is the attrition rate for women in tech. It's exceptionally high. So if you don't have a culture where every member of the workforce feels comfortable, that they can thrive, contribute, and flourish, no matter how you change your hiring process, you'll have the same persistent problem. So again, my advice is listen to the feedback from employees and action it. It's a lot easier said than done, but people's feedback isn't just their opinion. Every concern is a valid one. So let's create a culture where feedback is welcomed and the opportunity is there to do it one-on-one. And the fantastic news, that's never been easier than it is today. As so many people working remotely, it's very easy to have a one-on-one with a superior, with a colleague, whatever it may be, and have a confidential conversation. So I am happy to connect individually, suggest more actionable steps. If you guys like, my contact information is up there. But I think one thing to look and to walk away from right away that you could do is gender neutral wording on your job ads. But having said that, please remember, on that note, solely focusing on correcting things at the hiring stage instead of focusing on retention and those that are already with your company has a long-term impact on the overall attraction and retention strategy.
Okay, I have one here from Ben in Colorado. Ben asks, is there a way to support the team without paying for certifications? In a word, no. I guess in a few words, it's very, very difficult, okay? Ultimately, tech professionals within the partner space are so passionate about technology. They love learning new things, playing around with different areas of the platform or whatever it may be to upskill themselves and engage within AWS specifically. I think due to lockdown, it has also provided people with a lot more time to study. From our example, while we're not technical professionals, we've all upskilled ourselves in the AWS Cloud Practitioner, which has been absolutely brilliant. So I think really, while it could be possible, the easiest and most effective way to do it based on the findings today is to make sure that you allow some allotted time for self-study and for people to go and get those key certs. And just a refresher on that, the key certs again were solution architect professional, DevOps professional, and it was security.
Okay, and unless there's a few questions here. We had 2 or 3 come in, and they're all rather similar. So unless a few more pop up, one of the last questions we have here is from Christine, who had some very kind words to appreciate. So I found this webinar helpful. Will you be organizing any other webinars about AWS? So again, thank you. We appreciate that feedback. So Christine, we are still working on scheduling our future online events. If you'd like to keep updated, stay up to date with all the latest news from Jefferson Frank, the easiest way to do that is by following our social media. So we're on Facebook, Twitter, and we're all over LinkedIn. I'm sure you guys have seen, maybe found out about this through that. So not only do we share Jefferson Frank events, we also post links to other resources, tips, and useful links for those working with AWS. So I'm just giving it another minute, see if we got another question. Okay, well, doesn't seem that there's any more questions, so I think that's all of them answered. On behalf of Shane, Erica, we would all like to just say to everyone, thank you very much for your time today. We all hope that this has given you some insight into the AWS ecosystem, and that the salary survey can help you as you look towards hiring and retaining staff in 2021 and beyond. So please do feel free to get in touch with us. If we can help you with any of these decisions, or you just need to kind of go back over some of the facts from today and see how it applies to your business, we're happy to do that. So that does conclude the webinar for today. Thank you very, very much for attending. Please stay safe, everyone, and happiest of holidays.